Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Nicholas Davenport here at Mind Body One University, and we have some special guests here. They're just joining the Mind Body One team. We have Juanito, Choi, and Brittany Campanella. Now, we're going to talk about a topic that I've been saying for almost a decade or more than a decade, but you guys are currently transitioning from your master's program, getting into the actual field. Now, granted, you've got great experiences, but let's talk about how do you get to that next level and what you might have learned and maybe not on the way here.
I know when I was starting to get into the program itself, I don't think, well equipped with understanding what would come after being in classes. So I didn't know what really the business world looked like going forward. I didn't know where you would do, like, if you worked with like colleges or professional or made your own business. I didn't know what the majority of people did, how they went about it, all those little details. That's one of the biggest things that I've seen.
So, entrepreneurship. So, that
Yeah.
wasn't talked about. Is that something you think is a route that most people themselves think about once they're in their programs, being an entrepreneur? I know a lot of, from my experience, they look at it as working for a team or a college, but very few, I think, look at having to make your own business.
From what I've seen, at least in my program, I've seen it as both because
Okay.
there's a lot of people that want to work for themselves, create their own thing, but also the other population is mostly college and professional. Not many, I know I'm interested in working with like kids as well, but not many people are interested in that. So, but I know there are a few people in at least the program I went through that are trying to develop their own thing, their own brand. But yeah, that's what I've seen so far.
All right. You
What
got
I've
it.
gathered outside of my program, just with coaches and people trying to make their own paths in entrepreneurship, is that they just find accreditation online. It's through connections, it's opportunity. They're at the right place at the right time. They met the right person. And now all of a sudden they have their own brand. So at the end of the day, it is shaky. It's not from a solid foundation, but temporarily and on the surface level, it tends to look good. It tends to be good, but they may not have the same accreditation like Caitlin was telling us earlier of, you know, they may be underqualified for that
Mm.
position with the information that they're providing others, versus someone that is more well-rounded in the field and does have the proper accreditation, but because they didn't have the right opportunity, the right connections, they didn't get that position versus the other person, if
Well,
that makes sense.
no, it makes sense. So, out of a funny story, I had a person who inquired about, I don't know if it was just interning or just wanting to talk to me. And they were coming from more the clinical world, not necessarily sports psych, but they were interested in working with athletes. And I let them know that this wasn't a clinical or licensed position, but I do have opportunities that, as you guys know, could veer in other demographics. And while they were like thankful for the advice, but I told them that it's great to give that different type of skill set because, like you said, when it comes time to find that job, how do you stand out? And the biggest thing I tell people from being on one side of deployment to now the other is I'm always looking for who can give me something I don't already have, right? You guys are sitting here right now because you had skill sets or things I thought that could bring value that I wasn't personally doing myself or did myself, right? You come from a psych background, but also you have a master's in sports administration. And I saw that you had experience working with businesses that appealed to me. Like, I'm not saying that's the only reason I brought you on, but it's like, I look for things like that because in any business, forget sports psych, if I already have the skill set, let's say I'm a construction guy. Do I need to bring on a business partner that's already doing construction? No, I need a person who understands negotiating contracts with the city or understands managing a team. I can build the stuff. This other person needs to be able to bring it, the other features. So that's
Yeah.
where I think people get caught up in our industry specifically is they only have the skill set of one person or one job, I should say, versus, hey, yeah, you can do one-on-one skill sets or skills consulting, but what about being able to put together an event or being able to implement a more performance-based aspect of psychology? So I think my opinion from what I've seen being in the field and teaching this is there is a limitation. So let me go off this though. For the certifications that you guys get or aspire to get, what do you think the outlook for attaining these is? What does your programs tell you? Like, because obviously there's good to be qualified, like you said, but does it get you to where you think you need to be, or is it more so getting what is the industry standard?
So what I think it's the same with most degrees in general with or the certification. You get good resources while you're going to school, but a lot of times it's just so you have that for your resume because there's so much more that you need to learn or you should aspire to learn like going forward. So I think that's a good foundation, but I think there's so much more that you need to do. to actually be successful and build yourself a career and think outside of just those books that you have in front of you in the classroom.
So
Yeah, I mean, even while I was at FSU, and I remember, like, what are my next steps? I graduate a year early. What comes after that? And then at the end of the day, there's not enough time to do all these internship programs too while you're at school and you're overloaded with courses and credits. And then it's just, they don't prepare you to understand what exactly needs to come next. It's like once I'm done, and same thing with this master's, I'm done with the program, but I don't have anything to tell me what's next. People are from all different courses of life in the program that I've been in, and everyone's just kind of trying to check that off the box, check that off the list, hoping that that's going to be enough to get the next thing or get them through the next step.
Going with the intern thing. So that was one thing that I thought of with going into school, because for me in the program, they don't really help you find an internship or get that experience, because I think that you need the applied work to the max to try and figure out what you're doing and get used to doing it. So I had to find the internships by myself in a way. And that's why I immediately reached out to you guys, because I thought it was a good opportunity. So, and I think a lot of people going into school as well, like once you're at that point of like graduating, people think the first thing you're going to get a job, you're going to get paid well just because you have like the certification or the master's. But a lot of times you have to do other stuff to get yourself out there, whether it's like this, where it's just an internship, but it gives you so much experience and you get to know people, that I think those resources aren't talked about enough either.
Really quick to add on that, one of the coaches that works alongside me, she's a little older than, probably a year or two older than I am. She has like 5-6 master's degree certifications, and no job wants to really hire her. She has like a little business for herself, which is enough to kind of maintain a living, but no job wants to take her. Why? Because she lacks the experience. So even though she may have the quote unquote accreditation, she doesn't have the connections and she doesn't have the experience. So when you're young and you're coming out of getting a degree, if you don't have the life background, it's still not enough to sustain you. So it's tough. I mean, thank God it's worked out, but that was my experience.
Yeah.
the thing is, you're 100% on the money, because like I said, I've been on that side as a new practitioner trying to find work. I've been on that side as a practitioner who has work and has contracts, and now I have the experience of bringing on people, whether it's intern or employees. And like I said, I've seen it from the side where someone who has asked me fresh out the gate, hey, I need a job, ... And I'm not opposed to that if the economics have to make sense. Money in versus money out. I have to, whatever you do, get paid off, has to either bring in revenue or be a part of something bringing in revenue. So I have an individual who, he kind of missed out on opportunity because he kind of made a demand. And I'm big on like, hey, y'all see it as you get to know me more, and you probably see it already. I'm big on ideas and being open to, if you suggest something, I'm going to either help you get there, or if I have the resources, give them to you to get there. And he made a demand of kind of like, hey, I'm going to do this and I'll prove it. But I'm like, that's cool and all, but the skill sets you need, like if it was up to me and I say, sure, go ahead. I put you in front of one of the leaders of one of our contracts. Could you hold the meeting to get this further? It's not like a shot to him or you or anyone else, but it's like, could you do that? Now, if you can, that may be able to work. But like you said, the experience is needed. The degrees just get you in the door. That's like anything. It's like the way there, but it's not going to take you the rest of the way. It's only the start. So when you think that master's means I've mastered it, it just means, honestly, the biggest takeaway I think a master's program gives you is being able to be flexible. Like you said, having multiple courses, shifting your thinking and saying, oh, I got this project. I think that helped me a lot on how I do it now in the real world. So it is useful. So I'll never knock formal education. But the fact is, if I can't put you right in the fire, and both of you stepped up to a challenge I gave you last week, and in 2 days, less than 2 days, it was like, 48 hours? So it was like maybe 38 hours because I gave it to you at the end of the day. So you had like 38 hours and you guys came through. And that wasn't just like a challenge. That was a real life thing you both will be helping present at one of the largest sheriff's office in the country. And that's the type of stuff a person in this field has to be ready to do. And I can say you guys stepped up, but I have people over the years who weren't able to do that. And that's where the limited experience is going to hurt you.
I've also met a lot of the opposite of that in terms of coaches, because, they'll be 10, 20 years older than me with a lot of experience, but then they lack any type of educational background that's kind of solid foundation. So then a lot of industries or other sports clubs, they don't grow beyond youth level sports, right? They can't grow beyond that. They can't really do their own thing because they don't have that formal, list on their resume. So sometimes it just depends on, what opportunities come knocking at the door, what the owners or the, higher ups would like to see. But having both at the end of the day is the way to go. But obviously transitioning from, student to that is just a tough world that not many people talk about.
So
I was going to say, especially because a lot of people, they have an idea of what they want to do. But like I was talking about with you when we had our interview, was that I wanted to try everything because you don't know what you'd really be interested in until you're open to more things. Like I know what I personally find most interesting, but that doesn't mean when I start doing other aspects that I haven't had much experience in yet, I might be like, ooh, you know what? I actually like that more. And you don't get that as much. But so
I learned what I didn't like. So I was a shrimp coach with Florida Atlantic back in 2014. I did a summer internship with them from May to August. So I wanted at that time, I was still doing mental health, mental skills stuff, getting my sports psych degree, but I also wanted to be a shrimp coach. And I learned quickly after that internship, the college sector shrimp coach was not for me. I didn't like the flow of it. I didn't like the dynamic the coaches had with the shrimp coaches. I didn't like how it was you basically were at the whim of the coach. Even if you were you are the expert in shrimp conditioning, the coach still has a say in, well, maybe I want you to do a little more of this. Not saying they tried to micromanage, but I saw that wasn't cool. I didn't like that personally. And also I saw like just the setup wasn't what I thought it was. It literally was nothing I thought it was. I thought it was like, wake up and you get to have these athletes. Like, no, it was a lot more like a 9 to 5 with just workouts mixed in. So I'm like, you know what? This ain't for me. So that literally showed me what I didn't want to do. And it kind of guided me more to where I'm at now. So what you said is 100%. So to wrap this up, I'm going to ask you guys a question, or I guess it's a 2-part question. What is one industry that's in the mental performance, I'll say brain and behavior sciences, and that's a big umbrella, that you would want to learn outside of sports psychology, and one thing completely out of the mental health or mental performance industry you would like? For example, me personally, strength conditioning is one that I like outside of sports psych or mental performance. I like actually engineering. I like building things. As you see, I have some crazy contraptions and stuff. So that's what I like. So what about you two? What are 2 things, one that's in some form part of the psychology that isn't just sports psych, and one that's completely out of psychology that you would want to learn, a skill set?
So I don't know if this ties into an answer for those questions, but thinking in the lines of the mental psych and mental coaching would be, I really am eager to learn more about people in very high level stress situations. So like what we're working with, the law enforcement, those type lawyers, like just different fields, and understanding that they need help too. Like a lot of people don't want to seek mental therapy, and that's fine. But if you offer it in a way where it's just learning how to handle stress in a much more manageable way, and knowing that it's just part of life, learning how to handle it, learning how to act professionally in the process of it, in those moments, like it probably sounds more appealing, and it's so new that there's probably a lot of room to grow in that.
That works. That definitely works.
Outside of the field, I'm really interested in the management part, because I feel like a lot of these industries, whether strength and conditioning, agility work, like this physical aspect, it starts off very small scale, and then trying to grow that into becoming something more, for lack of a better term, like legit, like just more solid foundation where it can grow and there can be more revenue. Like I just want to learn more on building that, on how to make something small become something solid, no matter where they go, no matter who they're with. So
definitely great skill sets. And the second one, that's something I've had to learn through trial and error. So I agree. It is hard, and it's something that I didn't learn in my programs, and I don't think any program in any field really teaches that unless it is a business major. But yeah, that's something I've literally had to learn, and I'm still learning. I'm still growing and organizing. I have different systems now. Like if you look at the whiteboard, like I've gotten better. Like that's my film schedule from this weekend. So I literally structure everything in a different way than I used to maybe 5 years ago, where it's kind of like flying by the seat of my pants. I can be better, but I'm way more structured.
It's crazy how if you were to study psychology, you don't learn anything about the business realm. But no matter what you do, you always have to know business.
Yep.
Whatever field you're in, you have to know how to handle, because if you get a promotion, how are you going to handle that next step? You know, everyone's always trying to rise up and get more money. But anyways, that's
No, I'm a testament of it. So what you're saying ain't just theory.
it's just it'd be great if they taught you that
Mhm.
no matter what you studied, no
Or
matter
even
what
an
you did.
introduction.
Right.
You
Just
need something. Yeah.
Right.
There should be a whole course at the end of every sports psych program that's like a crash course in just general economics and business. That's it. It doesn't have to be literally how to become super successful business owner in sports psych. It should just be the basics.
Yeah.
Because these are things most people in any business don't learn. So especially something as abstract as mental, because we make great practitioners. I will never take that away from any of the accrediting bodies in the psychological or sports psych field. I don't knock that at all. I just think making more well-rounded is where we can be better at. That's all.
I think before I go into my answer, going with that too is like if they did a course, I think they also should have like a panel of professionals in the business. So you can ask questions about like, what do you charge for different scenarios? And how do you manage the business? How'd you grow it? How'd you start it? All that kind of stuff. We don't really dive into in the program either. I think
Mhm.
that's really important, especially if you want to do your own business. You need to know that stuff.
I'll take one more addition. We can go into your two. The good thing about knowing it outside of just knowing for your own business is that even within an organization or a team or a school, whatever you work, college, you're going to have to market or grow something to some degree. So, for example, at the sheriff's office, we do things within it where we got to promote it. It doesn't mean they're automatically just going to, oh, they're doing this stuff here. Yay. No, we have to still make it marketable and something that we promote and grow to do. So, going with that thought, let's say you do work at an organization like, let's say a big university that has Division I sports. You have to still make your services appealing to the people using it. So, the business mindset will definitely help you get to the point where you can sell it in a figurative way. Obviously, they don't have to buy anything from it because they're athletes for the school, but that doesn't mean they bought into. We were talking about this earlier. They don't mean they're bought into exactly what you're doing because you're the assigned mental coach.
Yeah. Yeah. Even, oh, sorry.
No,
I was going to say, you even have to, in that sense, going into like asking like what you charge and going into a university or organization, you have to know what your worth is as well, but like what's asking too much, what's asking too little. So trying to find that balance in the middle, especially coming right out, trying to get your first job, you have to have some idea of what is like, okay, I can start at this and build up.
Mhm.
Or
one thing I was going to say that I really liked about my program was that they had a lot of interviews one-on-one with people from University of Miami or in other organizations that they have higher positions there. And then they're just asked a ton of questions about the topic that we have to learn or whatever the course entails. And we get a lot of insight on their experiences, on what they like, what they dislike, their thoughts on the industry and their higher ups, the lower ground. Like it was really good to just hear from them. But it'd be great to expand on that and for more programs to
Mhm.
offer things like that. Like that was super unique, but it's very rare.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's cool though.
So what you got for your two? One in the field and one in the psych realm and one out the psych realm.
So thinking of in the more sports psychology psych realm, I think the two demographics that I would be interested in doing more with, one being coaching, since I am a coach, and I think that's not really one that's used too much yet because there's so much that coaches need to learn about how to manage all different ages. Especially, I think it's good to teach them all the different variations also because then if you're at like a college level, you then understand what the coaches before you did in with the kids or the preteens, how they implemented different things. And if they didn't,
Mhm.
why that athlete is the way they are. And then from starting at the childhood level or like I coach the grassroots, I think it's really important to get those fundamentals down so you can also instill that on the kid because right now there's a lot of pressure on youth sports.
Yeah.
I've seen it in South Florida, especially, but I'm sure it's all over the place. These kids are held to such high standards. There's so much pressure. And depending on how you coach, you also push that onto them. So I think that's a good realm that has to be dived into a little bit more to try and manage that. And so you can, not only teach them a skill, like I teach soccer, like not just the basics of passing or shooting or whatever, also how to be an athlete and how to deal with your parents or the stress of the game or the burnout at that age, because you don't want them to hit burnout, especially like I have 9-year-olds. I don't want them burnout by the time they get to middle school.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the main one.
I
that I'm
very much
interested in.
agree with that. That's something that we tried to do at the volleyball club that I was at because it was growing. We were getting more and more professional at like more athletes that wanted to reach the professional level going forward. that it's like, okay, how do we handle the 5 to 6 practices a day a week that they're getting? Their parents, because, the world is crazy and club travel. And we get it. There's a lot of money involved. So there is pressure and there is that kind of, oh, well, if my kid's not getting better, then, then I'm going to pull them out. I'm going to take them somewhere else. So then how do you help the kid manage that, help teach the parents how to help them manage that? But that all starts from the top to bottom too. If the top doesn't see that as something that's fundamental or important, then no one below the organization is going to see it as that as well. So it's just trying to get that message across to the people that are older and that have more of that power dynamic in the organization.
Oh, that's 100%. It has to go that way. I've seen it firsthand where it goes the right way and the wrong way. I've worked with contracts where that top-down approach helped the program grow, and I've seen the opposite where the top-down approach made it worse. That's a huge factor that people don't think about. The people can buy in at the bottom, but if the top ain't on board, it's not gonna fall apart, but it's gonna be like pulling teeth. Yeah. So what got your non-psych skill?
Before I get into that, because I was thinking, yeah, we could go in another avenue of just because I said coaches, but we also both talked about parents. And I think that's another area that can be tapped.
Sure. That's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah.
You and Kate, y'all three should do one with Caitlin because this is more her speed. No, for real, y'all should, because since you all coach and you all have this background and you all deal with parents, that's an episode within itself, because she literally was talking about one earlier. I know you mentioned one. I know you got stories. So I'm putting that out there. That should be future episode.
Yeah, so we don't have to dive into that. TBD. But parents, definitely. Or we have to dive into that. No, whether it's how they interact with coaches or the staff or the kids or the pressure, all of those.
From a revenue stream, that is good because you can pull in the parents because they're already invested in their kids, obviously, if they're spending X amount on travel teams, because those aren't cheap. So them doing something that can make them better parents, they'll buy in. So from a business mind, we can talk about that off camera, because that's definitely something me and Caitlin have spoken of over the last few weeks. But yeah.
Yeah, we had even tried to think of planning ahead for the next season, of having a meeting with just the parents, just the kids, and then one with everybody on just, a reminder on, for lack of a better word, behavior, like proper behavior and etiquette. Throughout a season, what are the expectations that you should and shouldn't have? What are healthy forms of communication for you and your child? If you do want that pressure and they're not where you think they should be, how to go about it? What are the right things to say? Like, I had a parent talk to me and she wanted to get psychology with, like, a mental session with her daughter because of her weight. She said that she wasn't where she needed to be physically, and that, she was at a skill level that needed more physical demand. And I was like trying to give her advice, but obviously I'm not certified, so I didn't push it too much. But she needed help on how to address the situation. And the coach also, it's like it's murky waters. You don't want to be someone to touch a topic that's going to, at the end of the day, maybe not be fully supported. So it was a unique situation, and the parents at the end of the day are part of the picture.
No stuff. All right. So what you got on that second one? You said had some time to cook.
Yeah, I know.
that was never mind.
Yeah.
That was just the first one.
Yeah, I know.
I don't have to be long. We can just
see when you said engineering before, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
mine
kind of goes into that. My family grew up like traveling to national parks and all that kind of stuff. So I'm really big into history. I like history and I like geography, just like that kind of stuff in general. So just learning even more about that, because there's so many benefits from learning history and what everyone's gone through. Yeah.
Shameless.
So and that goes the same with geography, because there's so many countries out there and they're all different. And it's the same when you interact with people. You don't know what they come from, what the background is. There's so many different things to learn. So just knowing more about that. Like if I ever find like an obscure country, like to us, like a small island or something, I'll always do like a deep dive and try and learn more about it. So I think that kind of stuff is fascinating.
And remember I said how my brain works? You just inspired some, may not be right now, but you give an idea of, just say, the 50 states, and like finding a mental toughness story from each state. Like that just went through my mind. But see what I'm saying? You inspired me. So good stuff. So with that being said, guys, these are two burgeoning professionals who are now working with Mind Body One. Is from the horse's mouth. There's a lot we can grow in this industry. It's not an exhaustive list. I don't have all the answers. So it's not just what I'm doing, but it's just a question of what can we be doing to make this industry better. So thanks for tuning in. And as always, get your mind right.